Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is Robbie Judkins, a musician and sound artist who releases music as left hand cuts off the right. He has a new album out now on Radigue tapes called Every Movement. He released another one on Radigue back in 2023 called Free Time, Dead Time. And unlike that record, which featured a lot of synthesized textures, it's a gorgeous record. This one has a wholly acoustic palette, and each track is this lovely rippling lattice of strings, zither, percussion, all bobbing up and down as if they're like little ripples in the ocean. Robbie brought in a lot of collaborators for this one. Like, as I say in the podcast, like all the best people. And they all bring their own augmentations to Robbie's music. There's always as well with Robbie's stuff like a real gravitational tonality to it. Like there's something about the harmonies that he uses which drags you in and down. And I love that. It's so present on this record. Full disclosure, I mastered this record. And as I say during the conversation, my main priority was not fucking up Robbie's beautiful mixes because they are stunning. The way that each instrument situates itself in space is gorgeous. And the conversation was gorgeous too. It sounds obvious, but Robbie loves music. That's very evident in this conversation. We talk about some great records. It's always a pleasure to chat to Robbie about music. So I hope you enjoy listening to it. And if you're enjoying the podcast generally, you can support it over at ko-fi.com/crucial listening. There is a link in the show notes. You can donate monthly or one-off, any amount you please. Thank you so much for your donations there. Okay, no further delay. This is Robbie Judkins on Crucial Listening. Welcome to Crucial Listening.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're here to talk about your 3 important albums that you've picked. Before we get to those, I want to talk about your new record, which will be out by the time this podcast publishes. It's called Every Movement, and it's out on Radigue. So, as its jumping off point, this record takes a line from Olga Tokarczuk's novel Flights, and that line is every movement turns into a return, which is very ripe, but I haven't read the novel, so I'd love to know more about the novel itself from you, and also what was it about this line that led you into Every Movement?
Yeah, well, the novel's about a lot of journeys and movements, as you'd expect, and that line, I mean, quite often I'm reading things and something just sticks out in a certain way, and it kind of lingers for a long time. And then I make a huge list of sometimes misheard lyrics or bits of prose or things that I've read or seen, and just make a huge list, either for track titles or sort of dropping off points. So every movement turns into a turn. It sort of just stuck with me. So sort of, well, you're coming back to the place that you were, and you're returning to the place that you came from, and then it just became every movement. And when I was making the record, I was wanted really just to home in on the zither, which has sort of been my instrument of choice for a few years, and trying to push what I could do with it as much as possible. And it was, playing quite exaggeratedly, quite loud, and banging and scraping and scratching it, and then being very delicate with the bow or feathers or this little sort of coffee whisk that I like to use, or making a very simple melody and just kind of building the piece around that, and then it sort of took off from there, really. So what I really enjoy about music and listening and sound is finding something so simple and taking flights of fancy with it and going elsewhere with it, but you're still kind of reined in by this one, kind of riff or bass track or whatever it might be that kind of like glues it all together in a sense. So the more I sort of played and made the album and thought about that line, it made more sense as the work developed, really.
Yeah, you mentioned the zither. I wanted to ask about that because, as you say, it has been in your life for many years now. Why do you think you wanted to center a release on it, given it's been in your repertoire for so long? What do you think it was that made you want to home right in on this instrument specifically for this record?
Before this one, I did Free Time, Dead Time, which was, there was a lot going on in that, and that was kind of came together in a sort of collage sort of way where I had recorded a ton of material, and it was, months and months of sort of meticulously chopping it and putting it together and overdubbing it, and that was just bringing in as many instruments as I wanted to. And like many other people during COVID, I had a bit of time on my hands and wanted to. I just thought, let's just boil it down to the basics and just get as much as I can out of this one thing. And I've really always enjoyed playing it. I mean, it's direct to begin with, acoustic or amped up. You can, play around with the tunings. There's a resonance to it. You can feel the instrument as it's moving. And the more I played it, the more I loved it, really. And I didn't want to affect it so much. I mean, I love playing around with effects, of course, but I wanted to just test myself in a sense, really.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask about the recording of the record, because the record is really resonant. Like, there's so many sounds on here which are kind of blooming all of the time, and some of the tracks can get quite dense. Like, there feels like there could be the potential for things to just become this morass of harmonics and stuff, which it absolutely isn't. There's so much like lovely congealing of tones and stuff, but everything is also very spacious and vibrant. And I mastered the record, and my primary thing was I don't want to fuck this up for Robbie. This is already really lovely. What was it like recording this record? How challenging was it? Because like I say, it's so crisp and gorgeous sounding.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed making it, and it was, as you said, homing in on that one riff or that motif, and just kind of recording it acoustically, and then building on it from there, and sort of chipping away at it every couple of weeks, thinking it's right, but I want to add a bit more, but not go too far that it just becomes overburdened. And I mean, like we'll see in some of the albums that I chose, there's something that I love about slight intertwining melodies and a bit of noise, and like a sort of short snippet of 2, 3, 4 minutes at times that just feels like, a sort of warm, encompassing sort of body of sound that just fits well together. And I wanted a bit of variety and dynamics on it as well. So some of them are noisier than others. And I'm also, even though I've collaborated with a lot of people and like live, in terms of like recording with other people on my solo work, I haven't done that as much. So that was another another stepping into a slight unknown where I thought, okay, I've made this music that I really like, and now I'm going to present it to some people who I really like. Are they going to hate it, or they might think, oh yeah, we quite like that. We want to add to it. So it was some musicians who I really admired that I thought, I think they might be able to work on something with this. And what they gave me was beautiful, and kind of like brought it to light and gave it an extra element that I needed. And I tried extra parts while I was playing more piano on it, and that didn't quite work. I kept some of that in, and I wanted to use as little as like synthesized sound as possible, not out of kind of elitism, but just as I want to try and make a more, let's say, electroacoustic album where I was like testing what I could do, really. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the collaborators, and you got all the good people on this. So tell me about who's on it, and what did you give them as well? What did you tell them? How much information did you give them to go on?
Yeah. So Guru and Havard from Mo, I'd sort of played a few gigs with when I was in Brooks and Maria a few years ago, and we got on very well. And as well as playing hard experimental rock metal, they also are happy to experiment and try new things. And we've exchanged emails over the years, and I had faith that I could send a few tracks to them that they would make something beautiful, and they did. And Guru has this giant octabass, which is huge.
Yeah.
Which I'd always wanted to incorporate in my work, and I was happy that she had the time to do that. With ZD Grafters, which Zach and Dave, I've been to Birmingham a few times, spent a time with them, and they were always happy to work on something, and were keen to show me the range of little instruments they had in their band room at home. It's father and son combo, and they had this great selection of gongs, and they were like, "Do you want to play in it?" And I did, and I loved it, and I thought, okay, this could work. And they were really happy to send some recordings over from what I'd sent them. And then for Dan B Hill or DBH, I've known for a long time, and absolutely adore his music. And in the old days of me putting gigs on, I would try and put him on as many times as possible, because I was just so happy to see him perform. Usually plays guitar in a sort of John Fahey, Nick Drake, Robbie Basho sort of style, but he's also not afraid to experiment. And I'd saw him a couple of years ago and mentioned this record, and he was more than happy to help out. So I sent him the recordings I had, all 11 of them that was at the time, and he contributed to everyone, which was
wow,
totally unexpected. Yeah, some of his violin playing just is soaring and really makes like the track Tongue in Order just it's ecstatic. I really love it. And then he was happy to sort of do some prepared guitar and violin on some of the other tracks as well, which fit with the timbre of the album, I felt.
Fantastic. How easy was it to identify when the record was done? Because it sounds like you had some moments of trying different instruments and kind of debating whether or not to bring other people in. I wondered what the process was like of closing the record for you. Was there a point where it felt obvious that you were like, okay, I need to now not touch this and it's finished?
If I'm honest, part of me just thought, I want to get this done now and finish.
Yeah.
I can't keep thinking, maybe I am happy with it, and I really like it, and the people I played it to, who I love and trust, really like it as well. I can't see any glaring, there's nothing worse than recording something and coming back to it and thinking, oh God, I can't believe I messed up that part, or I played it too fast or too slow, or was a semitone off, whatever it might be. But I thought it's I want to get it out and be ready, because I've got lots of other things I want to get out as well, and there's no good reason to me holding it back like right now. So
wicked.
That's the honest answer.
That's great. I appreciate it. People have been coming to me and saying that they love this record, and I'm like, I know it's absolutely, it's fucking great. So we will put links in the show notes so people can check it out, and please do. It's wonderful. So like I say, it's out. It'll be out now on Radigue by the time this airs. So Robbie, let's go to your important
Hmm.
records now. So one question I like to ask at this point is how you thought about the word important when picking your list of albums. So was there a way that you thought about the word important when picking the list that you did?
Yes, and it was difficult. Um, I mean, I've listened to this podcast quite a few times, and I'm always curious to see what people come out with. But I guess the two things that made these albums important choices for me were, one is that they've stuck with me for many years, and I keep coming back to them, and often find something new within them that I hadn't noticed before. And secondly, they are sounds or albums or tracks in particular that I try and mimic or replicate or have listened to and thought, oh, that's what I want. That there's something that they've
Oh,
got there that I really, really want to aim for. And it's that sort of endless pursuit of, there's that certain combinations of sounds and that feeling and that energy or slowness or whatever of speed that I really really want in what I'm doing, and as ever you try and mimic it and it sounds different, but these three in particular have but also changed how I listen to music and sound as well.
great answer. Okay, wicked. Let's go for whichever one you want to go for first, Robbie. What do you reckon?
Let's do Black to Come.
Cool. Alphabet 1968. So let's start by, if you could give me a little introduction as to why this one's important to you.
Yeah, it was the second Black to Come album I listened to, and the first one. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it because my German is atrocious, but let's call it Verkonen. And that was a sort of introduction of, let's say, drone music, probably back in about 2007, 2008. That was quite eye-opening for me, and ear-opening, I should say, and new in a sense of it was just so dense. My parents didn't particularly like it being played at home, but I enjoyed it. But then I was in Krakow to go to Unsound Festival and had seen Black to Come perform in 2010 and picked up this album on a whim. And I mean, there's a lot of mystique and mystery to it, and the front cover still haunts me in a strange way of I don't know, it's got a kind of Wicker Man vibe going on. There's a darkness to
Mm.
it. And the more I've listened to it, the more I keep coming back to it over the years. And despite it being 40 minutes long, there's so much that goes on in it, like little
Mm.
snippets and pieces and multi-layered field recordings, organ, guitar, piano, shortwave radio, voices. It's like it's all sort of like jumped in and put together, and like many great albums, feels like a real journey. And then the last track is like a sort of slightly surreal, woozy, sort of David Lynch style, I don't know, cheesy song from the 50s in a sense. And then I realized the album is like some reference to this David Lynch short.
Yes.
But that hasn't been like the attraction for me. It's been the sound completely is so well done. That's what I really like about it.
Yeah, I'm always alarmed when I see that this record is 40 minutes long because
Mhm.
I don't know what I think it is when I'm actually listening to it, but it doesn't seem to align with like a specific duration. It's a very strange experience, this one.
Mm.
You mentioned that there was an aspect of these records that you heard and you were like, I want that. That's the thing that I want to like bring into what I'm doing. What did that look like with Black to Come?
Yeah, his work has been a big influence of mine because yeah, there's a melody, there's a hook, there's something that's grabbing you in, and then there's so much more going on, and you're trying to figure out what these sounds are while they're kind of whizzing around your ears and feeling a sense of like calm, and then you're changing to another scene, and then you've moved back again, and you've gone somewhere else. and all the instruments are played. They're played so beautifully as well, and it seems methodical in a sense, but also quite playful. He's sort of like chucking things and seeing what happens, and then crafting it later, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I find there's like an ambiguity of movement as well, which is something that I feel also when listening to specifically your latest record. This sense of like things could be quite easily being looped here, or they could be continuous takes, because there's such a commotion of things going on. It's very difficult to get a sense of like what mode of time you're hearing. And in fact, with your record, was it like mainly continuous takes with the loops, or like I was never
No
really...
loops, no. And
No loops, wow.
No, and I didn't want. I mean, I love making stuff with loops, but there was something about just like sitting and playing something over and over and over again, and knowing there'd be little inflections or slight things that would be off. And even like with the opening track, Jonathan, that goes into first on this Alphabet 1968 record. Like on first listening, you think, okay, it's fairly by numbers drone, but then you come back to it and you're thinking, oh, I hadn't noticed that sort of breathy, airy sound, or that slight click, or there's some that sort of distant field recording coming in there. Sorry, the second track's called Frost, isn't it? And the other thing that's I'm in two minds about is this is that sort of slightly muffled 4/4 kick drum in the second track.
Yes,
that always catches me by surprise, and I still can't make my mind up whether I like it or not.
that's kind of cool.
I like it's the challenge. Yeah.
It's got this kind of Wolfgang Voigt sort of propulsion to it. That one. I mean, it sounds like so you had a record that you'd heard by Blacktacon before this. Then you heard this one. There's so much output from Blacktacon. I imagine there could have been a number of records in the mix for this. You've mentioned that this one you just keep coming back to. Do you think there's anything else that kind of makes it the record that juts out for you amongst the Blacktacon output and made it the important one for this podcast?
For me, this is my favourite of his lot, and sometimes I find that if I love a record so much, I'm a bit anxious about checking out their other work because I think it's not going to be as good as this one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I do like his later work, and I do like how much he's changed his sound. But this is the one that really, really sticks with me. Yeah.
What's your memory of that show in 2010 in Krakow?
It was part of of Unsound Festival, which is amazing. I mean, it was across the city, which is a beautiful city, and it was in a sort of church community hall, and he was doing a soundtrack for a film called Earth, and it was a fairly sparse audience in quite a large kind of reverberant space, and he had his huge setup of various synths and acoustic instruments and bits of percussion, and this film was playing, and it was just utterly surreal because this film has lots of stills of what looks like some sort of apocalyptic event where people are possibly dead, all laid out, and the sort of lights are sort of flickering, and there's little movements, and it's quite eerie. And that I was already liked his music, but that struck a chord, and then like a lot of good record buying, you buy it on a whim and it becomes your favorite. So that's what happened there. Yeah,
wicked. And then you've supported Blacktacon as well. Otto back in February 2020. So, and in fact, there's a video of your set online as well, which is great. I mean, what are your memories of that?
I tried not to be a fanboy, but which I mean, it exists in experimental music. But I was really excited to perform with him. We didn't chat too much, but I was really just happy to see him play and have the opportunity to play with him. And we exchanged a few emails, and I've told him how much I like his work. But that's as far as it went, really.
Wow. What was his set like at Otto?
It was a lot noisier than his other works, and he had quite a small setup. It was for the Seven Horses album, which I really like as well.
Mm.
And there's a lot going on in there. That's one of the later ones that I really like. So it was kind of a promotion for that album, really. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have a favorite track on Alphabet 1968?
Yeah, I'd probably say Music for Ale was probably my favorite. There's a sort of music box vibe to it and a skittering. I don't know. There's a speed to it, and there's these sort of sounds birdsong like, and the kind of flutters and flourishes that come through it. And there's a drone in there, and it skids around, and but it's sort of one melody as well. And that when it comes through, and in the middle of the album, it's a I guess a kind of palate cleanser where you think, oh, okay, well we're in a journey, we're going somewhere else now. We're going on a ride. I really like that one.
So, your second important record, Robbie, what do you want to go for now?
Let's do Alien Radigue.
Let's do it. So, Jetson Miller. Let's start with a little introduction as to why this one's important to you.
You must hear about her work a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, it's great. Do you know what? And it's always lovely because she's really important to me as well. But Jetson Miller hasn't been picked. I don't know if it's been picked at all. It may have been picked once very early on in the life of the podcast. I know Songs of Miller Rapper has been picked, but obviously Trilogy de la Mort, which is a lovely record, has been picked the most for sure.
Yeah, I'd love, a lot. I'd say most of her work. I think the ARP synthesizer stuff is beautiful, and the Okomotion series is also incredible, and I love how much she's changed the palette of sounds that she uses, but there's still there's just this endless intrigue with her work that I really, really love. But again, this, like Black to Come, this is an album just I kept coming back to. I love Adnos and Trilogy de la Mort, but this is the one that really, really stuck with me and goes on a journey in a sense as well. I think with Eliane Radigue's work, because it gets associated with ambient and drone, and there's a feeling that it's music to relax to, and in a sort of furniture music for airport style thing where it's there but it's not. What sometimes I feel gets missed in her work. There's a darkness to her work as well.
Yeah,
and that fits in with her beliefs and her faith, but there's something kind of brooding within it as well, that you're slightly at unease, but calm in a way. You're like, oh, this is so dense and gorgeous and sparse, but it feels a bit, something awful might happen. Might happen as well. Yeah. Which it's part of the fascination with her work as well.
Yeah, I mean, this record has at its close that section that just sounds like a set of horns blaring. Like, that's not music for airports at that point, but is very much the aspect of her work that I often forget about, and then I'm alarmed when it happens.
Yes.
You discovered her music through the Her Noise archive, is that right?
Yeah. Back in 2013, when I was doing my sound art MA at LCC, and I didn't know too much about her work. And then our project was to make a piece in response to feminism and gender in sound, and the more I listened to her, the more it stuck, and it was a completely new listening experience for me, listening to her work. Yeah, so I was comparing Robert Ashley's Wolfman with Elian Radigue's feedback works, and I love both of those. And Robert Ashley's is pretty aggressive. Like it's he's shoving the microphone in his mouth and sort of screaming and yelping, and all the feedback's coming from the inside of his mouth, and it's it feels more like White House than anything else. It's full on, which is great. And Elian Radigue's approach was the exact opposite, and it made me think, oh, feedback can be this delicate approach, which I hadn't really considered. And she talks about affecting the music like you're using the tip of your toes. And my previous approach to music was just to be loud and fast and just like pretty bombastic about stuff. And this made me think about it a lot different. And the rest of their albums did as well. And me and my friend Tassos often talk about imagining Eliane sort of just tapping us on the shoulder and saying, just slow down a little bit, letting the sounds breathe themselves. And the other thing I really love is in those early synthesizer works, she's doing them in one take, which I still like.
Yeah.
I can't get my head around that. Like, it's hard enough cutting together 10 tracks, but to do like hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and she's meticulously planned out each part, and if one thing goes wrong after, say, 35 minutes, you're going back to the start again. It's amazing.
Yeah. Because she has those charts, doesn't she, where it's like all mapped out, which is so astonishing. You made a work, I think, in the advent of these explorations of the Her Noise archive called Feedback Work Number 1. What are your memories of that? How did you go about making that piece?
Yeah, I was taking that delicate approach at the time, and just in the room I was staying at the time was like, I know I have to be quiet anyway, so I have to approach feedback in a really, really measured way, and kind of making sure that I was sat comfortably, had the amp at the right angle, that everything was working, because I was going to just really, really be gentle about the slight movement of the microphone and the position I had it and how fast I moved it or slow. And then the video that came with it was a camera I borrowed from the place that I was working at the time, and I just fed it into my computer and used the feedback from the internal webcam and the video camera, and loved just being very gentle and slow with it at the same time. A slight reflection or a shadow on the wall might just kind of seep into the visual, and just like in a sort of delayed effect completely take it over, which felt like a lot of what was happening with the sound. So that was the test really for me there.
You mentioned that yourself and Tassos have this Eliane Radigue presence, being like, look, slow down. I mean, is that the aspect of her work that you wanted to bring to your own music? You mentioned that being like a common thread with these important records. So is that what that looks like with Eliane Radigue and Jetson Miller? Yeah.
And just playing one thing, playing a drone for a long time, but being physical with it as well. You end up in this other world. You forget about time. You don't know quite where you are, but you're enveloped by this sound. Is forever a brilliant thing. And again, with her work, there is, despite it seems so simple, there is a lot going on in it as well. And the more you listen, the more you find, and you're thinking, what is that sound? Is it it sounds bell-like, or I feel like I'm underwater, or it feels slightly human. I'm not entirely sure. And that is, that mystery is still something I love.
Have you seen her work in like a live context before?
No. Have you?
A couple of times with I think I saw Lil Resonant as like a playback in a church, and then one of the Occam pieces in like a cave. I can't remember where that was. It kind of feels like I dreamt the whole thing, but you had the dripping of the water in this cave kind of mixing in with one of those very, very sparse Ockham pieces with like just two stringed instruments. I think maybe a cello and a violin or something like that. But yeah, amazing. Very cool. Okay, we've got one more important album. So if you could give me the name of it, Robbie, and then a little bit about why it's important to you as well.
Sure. This is Artificial Horizon by Lungfish. I heard it many years ago, and after a few attempts of listening to Lungfish, they didn't quite stick, but this is the one that stuck. And in recent years, they've become a fascination of mine. And yeah, like the other two, I keep coming back to this one, and I love Daniel Higgs's vocals and his mystical lyrics and his delivery, and but I particularly love the instrumentals as well. Again, that simplicity, and there's some playing with noise and a bit of delay and sort of roughness on this album as well, despite being, I find, quite calming as well. But I think his lyrics remain mysterious. You know, I spent ages trying to figure them out as well, which is a task in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the one I keep coming back to. I love Lungfish, and there's a lot of albums I love, but this is the one that really has me.
What made them an obsession in recent years? Like, what changed?
What I liked about my journey with Lungfish is that at first I just thought, this isn't for me. I can't quite get this. And it took me a while to sort of for it to sort of seep in and think, I'll go back to that and see okay. And it just, more and more I listened, the more and more I liked. And it became very comforting to listen to them as well. It was a reliable source of gentle heaviness, I find, with them. And I love heavy music, but there's something else about them which is there's a slight distortion, there's some sub bass, some of it's played quite hard, but it's not aggressive either. It's emotional, but it's not it's not in the worlds of metal, which I do love, but it's yeah, and they just kept listening to them, despite their songs having one riff. You just want to listen to it again and again and again.
Yeah. Do you think that's quite a common thing with them? So I listened to a radio show that you made, like a dedication to them a couple of years ago. Quite a few people say that, where they're like, I heard them and they were fine, and then there's this kind of seeping in that happens, or maybe there's a record that just unlocks them. I mean, having spoken to several people who also like Lungfish, does that seem to be some kind of common thread, that people are sort of skimming the edges of them for a while, and then there's just something that yanks them under? Yeah,
some of the people I spoke to, and once you've gone over the threshold, it's like you've joined this club of oh, you like them, and great, let's talk about it for hours. And if you've got a favorite TV show or whatever it might be, it's we're in this little nerdy club of people who like this one band, and it's great. Yeah, there is. I think for some people, it's the fact that they're on Discord, and that's got a fantastic reputation. So that became the inroad for a lot of people. Some come through it from Higgs's tattoo work, and some other people cite them as references. So it comes in that way. But there has been a sort of a reinterest in their work recently. I mean, I can't imagine that they're going to reform, and I'd rather they didn't. But it is once it clicks, it gets into your skin and your ears, and you want to keep coming back to it. And the reason I made the program was that a lot of fans really had such a deep connection with them that I was feeling as well. And once you found a person who had a deep connection, as I said, they want to talk a lot about it. And Brian Gaffey was making a podcast, going through every single Lungfish album and each song, and choosing someone to talk to with it about it. And that's, like all this good discussions about art and music, it's you pick up things you hadn't noticed, and yeah.
Oh, I mean, I can't imagine anything more exciting than having a whole podcast dedicated to a band you love, like record by record as well. Oh my god!
But song by song, so he'll
Song by song.
Yeah, so the one I did was on "Love Is Love," Hear the Children Sing. So I was just listening to that constantly for weeks before we went into to do an hour on it.
Oh, you did an episode of the podcast as well. Oh,
yeah.
How was that?
It was brilliant, and it was. What I like about it is that you don't choose the song. He goes through a cycle. He's this kind of Ouroboros cycle of first to last, and it's an album I love. It's not my favorite, but it's an album I really like. And this was a track we both had difficulty trying to decipher, which was brilliant. I was like, I think he's talking about this. Well, I think he's talking. It's like that was the intrigue of it. And you've got one very simple, two riffs just sort of playing with each other, which is great. Which is really great. Yeah.
I wondered how many other records there were in the mix. You kind of spoke about the reasons that Artificial Horizon rises to the top for you. Mm-hmm. I've been speaking to my friend Dom from Working Man, who has been banging the drum for Lungfish for a while as well. And I've kind of half listened to him. He made me a playlist of like his personal favorites a few years ago, which I really enjoyed listening to. But this is kind of, I think you picking this record, Robbie, has nudged me closer to surprised that I do a label on repetitive music and I haven't really had like a full appraisal of this band before. But anyways,
welcome aboard.
Another recruit.
That's it.
Were there other records in the mix here? I mean, Dom's favorite is Love Is Love, I think. Mm-hmm. And he talks about just loving the sequencing of that one. I wondered what other records were kind of like jostling for pole position for you.
Yeah, Love Is Love is amazing. It's amazing. That would be my third choice. It's incredible.
Wow.
But I think Feral Hymns is the last one is beautiful. And it starts off, there's that kind of warm heaviness I was saying about before. That album has it a lot. Like there's an overdrive to the guitar and to the bass, but it's not pushed to the point of distortion. But it's there's feeling it at a loud volume is wonderful, and the instrumentals are beautiful on it. Yeah, that of Artificial Horizons, Love Is Love are the faves. Indivisible's beautiful as well. Necrophones is also good. And then you keep kind of coming back to a lot of them. Some I prefer more than others. I mean, in the kind of inverse music snob, I prefer their later stuff than their earlier stuff. But Unanimous Hour is beautiful as well. That's got some Mated is a great track on there as well. Sound in Time is one of the early ones that I really, really like. That's when you start to hear them moving from a sort of post-hardcore sort of Discord, let's say, emo band into their sound, which is let's do one riff and play it very well, and have Higgs's vocals sort of seep into it and feel a lot like kind of traditional folk music. But even like, Talking Songs of Walkings is also good, and that is an early one, and that feels more like a post-hardcore, sort of Rites of Spring, Embrace, that world of things. But it is the later stuff when they have their distinct sound, which I really, really like. Yeah.
There's a bit in that radio show that you did. I think it was Chris Summerlin who said this, where just in the latter phase they started to really strip away the excess in what they were doing. So is that the trajectory they went on? Like in the with their last record, were they at the sort of peak of shedding the wastage, or becoming more refined?
Yes, but they also experiment a bit more as well in
Hmm.
terms of the sounds that they're using. Because on Love Is Love and Unanimous and Artificial Horizon, there's sort of there's some tracks that have no beat. They've got maybe some delayed effects on. There might be some extra vocals or a piano, but that dedication to that one motif or riff is absolutely there.
Hmm.
And Higgs's lyrics become more mystical and sort of mythical, and playing with ideas of religion and faith and something bigger than ourselves. And I think in the earlier ones, there's a slight sort of punk sort of like shouting about something which is very
Hmm.
important to you, which is great. But then it seems like they all seem to move in this direction where they're thinking broadly and more open, and you put onto it what you feel is what it's about. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you have a favorite track on Artificial Horizon?
And the word I really like.
I
Yeah.
was going to call it "And the Word."
Yeah.
I guess you haven't. So they stopped playing in 2005, right?
Mm.
So I'm presuming you haven't seen them,
No.
but you've seen Daniel Higgs.
Yes.
Yes. What's your memories of seeing Daniel Higgs?
He's quite a character. In the best way. In the best way. And yeah, I think I said it on the show, but he played at Otto and was sort of tuning up and getting ready, and he's got this, tattoos and giant beard and a sort of wayward sort of look to him. I mean, that doesn't sound too unusual these days, but anyway, he's a mystical man, and the thing that stuck out was he said thank you to the people at the gig from the night before in Birmingham, and he was going to carry on playing to them and to the people here in London. It was like, oh, okay. That's such a nice way to think about things. Like you haven't finished what you were doing, and you're just moving along and carrying on in the thing that you were still doing. You're not back to zero and starting fresh again. You can't ignore what happened in that gig last night. It may have gone well, it may have gone bad, but there's something that's still stuck with you, a memory, a spell, a sound, or whatever it might be that you're playing tonight as well.
How
Love it.
great is that? Yeah, because of course you are. Like, there's got to be an energetic continuity there. It's such a lovely way to frame it. You mentioned people come in through their tattoo work, and this got mentioned in your radio show as well. How? Like, is he a renowned tattooist, or?
He is. I don't think he does it anymore. I have a friend who is a big tattoo fan, as a tattoo artist himself, he loves his tattoo work. I can't say I know a lot about tattoos, so I'm not going to pretend. But he had a reputation, let's say, and people would queue and be on a waiting list to get to see him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blimey.
But yeah.
Robbie, is there anything else you wanted to say about Lungfish or Artificial Horizon? I'm sure there's many things you could say.
Yeah. Let's do a podcast on it. No, I mean, I love the later stuff as well. I really like Zomes, especially.
Oh, yeah.
And I love Acer and that combination he has going on there is great. And again, it's that I want that riff that just works, and you can go over and over and over and over again with it, and just tweak with it. And they've done such a, I wouldn't say they're doing the best job, because lots of bands have done a beautiful job of it, like Earth or Velvet Underground, but they do it so well. Yeah.
My eyelashes fell out. This is the last song I sung. I slept with informants, and this is the last song I sung.
Robbie, we have one more question, which is kind of broken into several parts, but it's about you as a music listener and how music comes into your life how you listen to music. So let's start with where you buy music. Where do you tend to buy music?
Predominantly online. A mix of digital downloads on Bandcamp and the odd record tape or CD from Juno or Norman, those kinds of places. And if I can, I'll head over to a record shop and see what I can get. Predominantly online music, and I'm very happy to support people on Bandcamp.
How about music where does music feature in your life as a listener? Like, where do you listen to music?
As much as I can, and quite often now it's like WhatsApp groups, particularly with my brothers, who will send me, have you heard this? Did you know about this? Have you heard this new thing? And that I really, really like. I was previously an avid reader of The Wire, but with time constraints, I haven't read as much of it. But that was a constant, like, with the pen and highlighting albums that I wanted to delve into. Mm-hmm. And Late Junction, Music Planet on the BBC are the ones that I kind of keep going to. So they would be the main ones, and occasionally with Six Music, there might be something that really sticks out to me. I mean, I will admit I use Spotify. I realise that's a no-no, but it's easy to use. But if and when I can buy it, I will do. Yeah.
Nice. And do you have a favourite format?
No, but I am coming back to really liking CDs.
Right on, nice.
And I think in my early days, I thought records were the best things in the world, and they are beautiful, and they're great, and they're beautiful to look at and to flick through in a shop. But you don't want to keep turning it over, which is obviously why they were made. But
yeah.
There's a weird sort of snobbery about why CDs are better and vinyl is better, but it's not better. And I mean, it's a bit tiresome, but it also comes down to cost as well, doesn't it? Really, like it's vinyl's just insanely expensive. And I like tapes, obviously, and I guess that's still carrying on from swapping and exchanging tapes at shows, and a friend's got a tape out and you want to swap it with them, and they're quite easy, convenient things to pick up and take away. And there's so many different color combinations and the ways that they're packaged and put together, which I love. But digital music is it's so good, and I don't really hear the difference between this is an AAC file and a lossless WAV or any of that nonsense. It's like it sounds good to me.
That's great. What's something that you've heard recently which is really sticking with you at the moment?
Good question, because I nearly put it on my list. So it's on Je ne sais quoi Records by Clement Versaletto. Apologies for butchering that. Oh, it's a beautiful record, man. Really nice. And that was one I thought, this is what I want to do. He's got this riff that he's playing with, and there's a delay and there's an expanse to it, but it's noisy and creaky, and it's really nice. Yeah. And there's a bird theme with it as well. So I was like, okay, now I'm taken. But that's only come about in the past sort of couple of months. What's the track? My French is terrible. Apologies. Le Serpent Testant L'air. Oh, that's really nice. Oh, yeah, that one's come around recently, and it's like there's a electroacoustic feel to it, where it feels maybe like a sort of slightly cheap sounding sort of Casio synth, but the multiple layers and the field recordings, and then what sounds like the pressing of the keys and the clicking of the buttons is then fed into it as well. It's very nice.
Okay, yeah, please link me to that.
But otherwise it's been lots of horrible black metal, and the Cindy Lee record I really liked as well.
Yeah, right on. That's a good one, right?
Yeah, really like that. Yeah. I didn't expect to, and it's huge, but I keep listening to that, and I love how that's recorded, because it's. I think some of the reviews have said, it's lo-fi, which felt like a kind of damning way, but it's so well put together. I love it.
Yeah, I think also there's some very intentional choices around how protrusive some sounds are, which I think lo-fi doesn't. They feel very meditated. Some of the more protrusive textures. It's not just like shoddy.
No. I mean, one review said some of it's a bit shrill, some of the guitar, which I agreed with. It sort of sticks out, but it's that. I guess it's with some black metal and some kind of experimental music where it's recorded at lo-fi, but it's treated in a hi-fi manner, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Where it's like they've made the decision to record it in this quite low compressed or sort of tinny way, but they've then molded it and made it work, which is a skill in itself.
Yeah, you can turn it up in your car and it doesn't destroy your ears because there's horrible frequencies coming at you. It feels very balanced, right, as well. Yeah, nice. Great, Robbie, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Like I say, your record is an absolute gem, and lovely to hear about these 3 records as well that you picked for the podcast, and a couple more at the end, so thank you so much.
That's all right, thank you. Yeah.
And to everyone listening, and see you next time. Goodbye.